On today's podcast, we have Ben Moote. I'm so excited that he joined us today because if there is a successful funnel out there, he has hacked it. We're going to learn all about it on today's podcast.
I've spent the last 20 years studying, teaching, and coaching people to find their greatness and take their lives to the next level. Along the way, it's become evident that emotions are at the root of everybody's successes and failures. Worry and fear are the enemies, and it's time to forge the armor and earn the tools to overcome the two things that could single-handedly destroy your future. Hi, my name is Michael Johnson, and I'm a life coach, a peak performance trainer, and I'm the emotions guy. It's time to take back control of how you feel, control of how you act, and control of how you experience life. It's time to become a lifer, a new breed of overachiever focused on living every minute to its fullest. We are responsible for how we feel, and no one and no thing can make us feel anything. Emotional mastery is our journey, and emotional education and intelligence is the key. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life.
What's up, lifers? Michael Johnson here with Magic for Life podcast, and I'm so excited that you joined me today because today we have our esteemed guest, Mr. Ben Moote. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, stoked to be here. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. How are you?
It's great to have you here, and we are so indebted to you because we've followed you for a long time now, and I want my audience to get to know you because they should be following you and they should be listening and doing everything you have to tell them. So tell us a little bit about your backstory and why everybody should love you. No.
Why should everybody love me? This is difficult. Okay, so here's the honest truth, everyone. So we all have those dreams and those goals. We all have those things that we really want to do someday. For me, I was driving down the road, going to my job. I had just gotten out of college. I would work there till 7 o'clock at night, and I'd come home and my wife would be like, honey, I don't even know when you're coming home anymore. And I'm like, and we've been married for a year. And so it's all these changes all at once. And all I really want to do is be at home with my wife and actually get to know her. And here I am having to put in overtime at work so that way I can get the next promotion and be recognized and, all these things. I'm just something doesn't fit. And I don't feel happy. I'm running so fast. I don't feel happy. I really just want to be with my wife. I chose her, dang it. And she chose me. And I just want to be with her. And so I'm trying to figure this out. And if we're going to have kids someday, this isn't going to work. And I couldn't balance the two. And I felt like there were things pulling at my life. And I said, if there was ever a chance to dream, right now is the time, because if I screw up, I have a wife who's kind of forgiving and I'm young. I can bounce back from this. So I said, you know what? Bye. So I left so I started researching, starting your own business online, started jumping in all that. I was in analytics in my job. And so I'm a numbers guy. And so I jumped out of there, was like, okay, business can work, but only works by the numbers. So I would create massive Excel spreadsheets. I would create all these plans on how it's going to work. Well, if I get a conversion ratio of this, and I do all these things, I just went into candy love with the whole idea of online marketing and funnels and trying to make it work. And then I tried to sell it, of course, door to door to businesses who didn't even have a website. It was the worst plan ever. And I just decided, no, we're just, right? It was horrible. And I didn't do well. It was very, very difficult. After a couple of years, I started another business with a friend, trying to help him with a warehouse management. And that died horribly, spectacularly. And I'm sitting there in a truck that I now have to sell. That cost $10,000 to get. Sitting there in this truck, thinking about how much I just wanted to do online marketing. This just blew up in my face. Where do I go? And do I actually try to give up right now and go find the JLB? Do I go back to it? Because at least then I could tell my wife, I'm bringing something home for you, sweetheart. And I wasn't upstairs playing with things. And she's like, how's business going? Oh, it's going great. I'm learning a lot. I'd already learned a lot. I went and got a bachelor's degree. I got really good education, and I wasn't even applying it because I was trying to figure out this new thing. So fast forward, we moved across the country to be closer to her family. I in my strive to try to find a job, I got a job at ClickFunnels. If anyone knows what ClickFunnels is. ClickFunnels is a marketing software. They're amazing. Everyone who uses it calls themselves a funnel hacker. Like, it's genius, it's awesome, and it's changing the way you need to look at your business and your marketing, because it makes it fun and it turns into something you can actually do. It gives you the education as well as the software. So anyways, I joined and after 4 months, they let me go because they were feeling kind of the same thing I was feeling, which is, as much as you love the company and all these things, you're too entrepreneurial. Like, you're too focused off time thinking about how you're going to be able to make this work with other different things. Like, your mind is everywhere, and we love you, but we just don't have a place for you right now. And so they let me go, and I'm just like, well, give up. I've tried my own businesses. I've tried businesses I don't want to do that fall in my category. I've tried going back to a job. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And a friend who was in the inner circle at ClickFunnels turned to me and said, dude, don't you dare give up. Don't you dare. You have something to give, and you are freaking better than everybody else at this thing. Go and do it for people. Go and just do it. Just do it. And so I started building out these marketing systems for companies. And I priced myself super cheap. Like, I've been smashed over and over and over. So I just priced myself super cheap. And I got lots of testimonials. And people were like, oh my gosh, Ben is amazing. I started doing all this, and it came to the point where finding work wasn't a problem. The hard part was, how do I actually get somebody a result? I don't like doing work where it doesn't give someone a result. So I get this customer, and they're like, well, Ben, we want you to be our everything. I've had a couple people come to me like this. We want you to do our everything. And then about 3 months later, they're like, well, we don't have enough for you to do. Because I go fast, I run. Like, I don't mind like going 1,000,000 miles an hour. So they said, Ben, we want you to do our everything, and we want to pay you high ticket. What are you going to provide? And me, I'm like, oh, I've been smashed so many times. I have to give so much value in order to be worthwhile. And so I start stacking all these different things. And I'm like, if there was one thing that I'm not doing today that would make it work for them, what would it be already? And I'm like, I don't know. And, man's brain, it takes like, a week to mull over an idea before you figure something out. And so I'm mulling over it. And this idea comes up, like, you should watch the original webinar that sold ClickFunnels. You should watch the original webinar. I'm like, okay, cool, yeah. Let's go back to the roots. Let's see what I've been missing. Start going into it. The whole thing is how to funnel hack. And they're like, cool, sweet, awesome. And you go through it and you're like, oh my gosh, I can funnel hack. And the steps that he taught to funnel hack, nobody does. Everyone just goes and they're like, I use the software, and so I'm a quote unquote funnel hacker because I can hack a funnel together.
Right.
But no one did the funnel hack, which is market research, just basic market research. Understand your market before you go and build in it, please. Understand the people you're going to go help. Understand that there's a live person. And so I added this in. I'm going to do market research. I told them I'm just going to take like 2 weeks. I'm going to go like super in depth into like 40 different competitors. I went super deep. And I whiteboarded them all out, all their paths, how it all worked. And I said, this is what we're going to do. And I circled it and I created those things. And we got industry breaking results.
Nice.
Like it crushed. And I went, and then their software broke on the back end. So then we fixed that. And then we still got industry breaking results. And then I took those ideas and I moved them to dentistry and I moved them to other systems. And it works, but you have to follow a very specific pattern. Everyone likes to call themselves something. You have an identity. The question is, do you remember what brought you to that identity? And do you actually follow through on the steps? Or a lot of us like to learn for learning's sake. It's not enough anymore.
Right.
It's not enough. I mean, once you're done with high school and college and your master's, and for some of you, your PhD, you've gone super far. It's time to actually look back at all of that and say, what steps of all of these things am I missing that would make the biggest impact on my life? For me, marketing, it's market research. And for serial entrepreneurs, that's the last thing you want to do because you're so in love with the idea. But that's where you need to go back to, is the market research. And so that's how I fell in love with marketing again. Started my own podcast, my own channel, my own products. And it's been a really fun blast. Number one, doing a lot of market research. But number two, like it's so much fun to go and buy other people's products and be like, it's a business expense. So that works great. Love it. But really, what's really neat is like connecting all of the pieces and watching somebody go, holy cow. Like, so how did we meet? Like we met at on a digital meeting. Like I called Skyped into one of your meetings, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For marketing. And we went around to the group, each person, and said, what's your business? And because I funnel hacked all these freaking different people, the minute that you talk about your business, I'm like, shoot, I know what it is. And I would go into like 4 different people who are doing something similar and craft out a strategy for you based on what's already working in your niche, in your market, in what you're trying to create. You can't put money on that, but you first have to go and research it. You can't learn this out of just the book. You have to go and fall in love with your market. You don't have to become a perfect marketer, but fall in love with your market. So that's what I do. That's what I enjoy doing. So now I have my own home that I was able to pay for. We have 2.5 acres, 3.5 acres. I don't know. We have way too much. We have 9 dogs, 2 cats. Yeah. 9 dogs, 2 cats. My wife is doing animal rescue all the time. And about a year ago, she's like, I think I don't want to work at my job anymore, and I want to figure out what I want to do. So she quit her job, and ever since then, she's been doing animal rescue, learning what she wants to do, and she has that space available because I finally went back to the basics and said, what piece did I miss?
Yeah, that's crazy. And what an interesting journey to have gone on, because you went through the layer of our fearless leader, and realized, maybe through the universe at large that was not the path. And for so many, I've seen it a ton recently too. And you just pay attention to the people that have gone through the doors of ClickFunnels, and it's propelled so many to massive success, because somebody there understood that they needed to get the right people on their team, but they also needed to get the right people out of their team so that you would go and do what you're doing. Because honestly, without you doing this, so many of the entrepreneurs out there just would be in a world of hurt, because so many people don't, like you said, they don't like doing that market research. We're in love with our product. We're in love with our thing. And I totally get it, because, if we could spend, all of us entrepreneurs, if we could spend all of our time doing the thing that we love to do, we would do that.
Yeah.
And the cool part is that you love to do that thing. And so, so to be able to find somebody that can do that is worth its weight in gold. And, to be able to see that be the case, I mean, it also helps us be revered towards that company as well, because, you look at some of the other geniuses like yourself that have come out of ClickFunnels from working there or being part of that group and then moving away because they really weren't fit to be as the employee. They were better off being the entrepreneur. And so anyway, I mean, that's kind of long-winded just to say, gosh, thank goodness they didn't keep you on, because
it didn't feel like that at the beginning. I'm like, I got the dream job. My life's changed. And the funny part is, like, you had Steven Larson on recently, right?
Yeah, I did.
I interviewed him for my podcast. It's coming out in a little while. I'm so stoked. But I met him at the Funnel Hacking Live that he broke his butt to get to.
Yeah.
I met him, and I'm the guy who drug him around and said, we need to hire this guy. They hired him, and a month later, they let me go.
Oh, geez. What was I thinking, right?
I'm going, what? And so they're like, well, what can you do, Ben? I'm like, I'm a funnel builder. Like, I can build funnels. Like, well, we've got one of those. I'm like, yes, because of Steven. I love Steven, but Steven, you better blow it out of the water. And he has. And it's been a blast to watch. But yes.
And even he had to move on too, you know, and
Yes.
he had to do it his own way, but because he was better off serving our marketplace than he was serving them.
What I just interviewed Gabe Schillinger as well, who's
Yeah.
really, really cool, by the way. If you want me
Yes, please.
to touch base,
Yeah.
do that. So the way that he talked about realizing that he could actually be a musician and he just got his second 2 Comic Club award, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And so like, he's like, the way that I said, where do you want to be? Like, what's your legacy? And he's like, honestly, it feels like each piece is an incubator, like for the next piece. So like, yes, I failed miserably in several businesses. And it was really painful. And I
Join the
had,
club.
oh, and then I went to ClickFunnels, and apparently I failed ClickFunnels because I couldn't even make it as an employee. I'm like, oh my gosh, each of these things that you call failures are incubators.
Yeah.
And they're really preparing you to have the fire, to have the calling that you've been called to do. And like, it's just an incubator. You don't know you're being renovated for, but you are in an incubator and things are going to change even now.
Yeah.
And so make those high, heavy goals because it's an incubator.
Oh yeah. I used to have a friend in college. He used to say, if you play with a dog long enough, he's going to lick you. And I think part of that was that, like, if you back a dog into a corner and eventually it'll fight. Eventually it'll fight. If you back it into the corner and you give it no more options, it'll fight. And I feel like sometimes with us as entrepreneurs, we do that. Like, we kind of have to like get ourselves backed into a corner where we're finally going to fight for the thing we love to do. And it's huge, like, what's going to produce an entrepreneur right now out there that doesn't like the analytics and doesn't like the market research? What's going to get them to move? Well, they're going to get to a point where they're going, I love this so much and I know everybody needs it, that I have got to call Ben because I'm going to fight for this. Either I'm going to learn how to do that and I don't like that, so I'm going to call Ben, or I'm going to fail, and so I think that's the case. And in case you didn't get my drift, I'm telling you to call Ben because,
Happy to help.
Well, so tell me, when everything wasn't working out and when you had no money, because you talked about that in your story,
Yep.
there was no money coming in. How did you keep your emotions in check and keep pushing through that? Because that's so hard for so many entrepreneurs.
So it's really funny. You have these, like we talked about, at the beginning, you have these dreams, you have these machinations of all these things that you want to become and do, and I wanted to be able to just take care of my family and be home. That was like my big dream. I just wanted to be home, and I took a while to figure that out. And the one thing that kept driving me is I need to be home. Like, so just a bit of background story for me, like my father is a brilliant physical therapist. He does an amazing job. And every time he's in a job, he makes everything around him easier. He like stills the waters and increases the revenue. He just does an amazing job. So much so that management, if they're not looking, thinks, oh, that's an easy person to replace. And they would replace him. And then everything was choppy as all get out. And it was a pain. And they were like, get him back, get him back. And he was like, I can't trust you. And so for the longest time, my dad always was told, you should go start your own practice. You know how to make this work. And you built these things from the ground up, like you can do this. And he's like, everyone that I've met who's had their own business, their families have fallen apart. And I will do anything to keep my family together. And so he would never do it. But he would always talk about how much he missed coming to the soccer games, how he would miss coming to, we were really big into musicals as a family. And so like, he would talk about how much he wanted to come to the musicals and be able to participate and help build the sets. He talked about how much he just wanted to spend time with us. And he was stuck at his job, unable to do so. And so I'm thinking, I have my family. I can't. There's this fire, there's a wall, and you have to choose what your wall is. You have to create that wall. And because if you don't create it, life is going to keep shoving you further down until it says, when is enough enough? And so you have to define what your wall is. My wall is, I want to be around for my kids more than my dad was, because that's my dad's number one regret. I wanted to ask my dad, he served a mission for his church, and I was going to go and do the exact same thing. And I said, Dad, what's your biggest regret? He goes, I wish I had brought more candy for kids. He goes, I wish I had brought more candy so I could just give them out to kids and be like, hey kids, we're cool, and let's go play a game of basketball or something. He goes, I could have changed so many people's lives just by being kind on the basic level. And I was like, holy tar. And so my dad's like really big, and he thinks really big when he actually answers these things. So I'm like, what's your biggest regret? Not being able to spend time with us. Well, I don't have any kids yet, but I am not letting that pass me up. So it's become my wall. I have to do the following, and that wall's going to move as you keep progressing. I am now not going to. We have 9 dogs. That was never in the plan when I married my wife. For me, could have been her plan the whole time. I don't know. But we have 4 Chihuahuas. We have 1 pit bull. We have a puggle, and then we're fostering a I don't know what, a lab, and another dog. Like, we have so many animals that it becomes more expensive. If any of you do vet bills for your animals, you'll know it's expensive. Suddenly, I have to take care of my family, and that's my wall. And my wall has increased. Your wall is going to increase. You will have a different wall. And you'll have those moments like beginning of this year, I took a walk. Like, I rarely get angry. But when I get angry, it's pretty serious. And I couldn't take it anymore because my back was against this wall of, oh my gosh, everything's increased. How do I take care of this? And I went and I took a walk. And I just, in the darkness, I just stomped it out and figured it out and stared at the stars until I said, this is my new wall. And so help me, I am not going to be pushed up against it and left. But you define your wall. And so literally the wall and the fire, it's those 2 things for me.
Nice. So I believe what you focus on, you get. And so, being able to manage your focus and being able to manage what's going on in your mind is hugely important. So over the last 5 years, what's been your primary thing to focus on, and how did you maintain that focus?
That's a great question. I'm gonna be honest, it's unfocused. Like, when you're an entrepreneur, you're like, your brain's freaking everywhere. And especially when you're an entrepreneur who's trying to figure things out. So I've been going through .com secrets in a lot more thoroughness. And by the way, marketing and funnels is my thing. So I get deep down into it. This is written by the creator of ClickFunnels. If you guys do not follow, that's okay. You don't have to. Just saying, this is how I do it. So he talks about the fact that you need to know where you're going to take people. Where are you taking people? What is that unique result you're going to give? Sure, I would love to give people a funnel that works. Russell does that. Well, so what's unique about me? Oh, crap. Figuring out that has redefined everything. Once I can figure out my who and that, you focus on that person that you're going to help. If you can focus on that person you're going to help, in business, I guess this is what I focused on. The person you can help and the results you want to give them. At the very beginning, when I was starting my business, the person I wanted to help was myself. And the result, I didn't want to feel useless. And then once that started to figure it out, there was my wall, it got pushed up. I want to take care of my wife. So that way she knows I can provide. And she's taken care of. So she can do what she needs to do for her to live a fulfilling life and to choose that life for herself. So there's my new wall, and I had to figure that out. Now we've gotten to that point. Now I'm able to look as an entrepreneur and say, I'm taken care of. My wife is taken care of. My family is taken care of. Now who? And so honestly, my focus changes. But your focus defines everything, absolutely. And it's really easy I don't know if you study 16 personalities. I believe I'm an ENFJ. And so I follow that very thoroughly. I look at strength finders. I try to understand myself very well. one of the things that I've learned about myself is that it's very easy for me to not believe that I can help somebody else, and I'm more likely to hurt them. Just me. And I find when I focus on that, I diminish myself massively. And so there's two things that are always fighting in your mind. It's these faith versus fear, and you can't have both. And so this faith in a better future of I can do this, I can take care of my wife, I can take care of my family, I can take care of others, versus, well, I don't know if I can. One will diminish you and one will increase. Think about what happened when COVID hit. When COVID hit, what did you do? I guarantee you there was a moment, no matter how long it lasted, that you shrunk. There was some moment where you shrunk, whether or not you caught it. There was this shrinking moment of, oh my gosh, I can't do as much. I can't control as much. Whether or not you stated, but I can, is the question. And whether or not you say today, but I can, is the question. So where are you going to go now in order to fight that fear? Because those are the two voices in your head. You got the two angels.
Yeah.
And it's going to beat you up, but you have to listen to that dream and just understand your wall. Like, I didn't understand it. Like, honestly, speaking all this makes much more sense now. Like, oh my gosh, my life makes sense. But in all honesty, focus on what you're going to go and do. Don't allow yourself to focus on how little you may feel. Don't allow yourself to focus on anything that shrinks you, because that shrinking is holding you back from massive amounts of impact. Everyone always told me, you can make such a big difference, blah, 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 blah. You were made for things better. When you're on top, Ben, just remember us. I remember hearing all that stuff. And I was like, that's just silly. You guys are all goofs. But that's true for all of us. There's that calling, and it's waiting for you. And no, you don't know what it is. And I don't know what it is. And you're being prepared for it. The question is, are you going to stand today so you're ready tomorrow?
Right.
And so focus on those things that help you grow. And yeah, those things may be fleeting. And we may be in a world where things really suck. But focus on those things that help you expand. Because when you're that kind of person, people just want to be around you, number one, which is nice. And number two, where attention goes, energy flows.
That's so true. You know, to lead on from where you're going there, I believe that communication, I had a lot of education in linguistics. And so, you know, the quality of our communication is a big deal. And I think a lot of people think that our quality of communication is just about how we communicate to others. But it sounds to me a lot like you've figured out how to communicate to yourself really well. And so in that light, what do you find yourself saying to yourself on a regular basis that helps you stay positive?
So it's not so much, you have all these voices in your head, right? It's not so much taking the time to listen to the voices as defining what I'm going to say it again, it's defining what your wall is, but you're defining what you're allowed to think about. It's some very serious what's that called? I don't even know what the name is. Control, self-discipline.
Yeah.
When you are like, I am only allowed to think about this. Like, I will sit down and I will work from 8 in the morning until 11 at night. I will do it, and I will be on like thought process, like, this is what I got to focus on. Okay, now I have ADD, so it's like, this got to focus on. Okay, cool. And I'll just run, and I'll run usually to the place where I can make the most impact. That's where I push. And everything else kind of falls by the wayside naturally, and I need to go back and pick up those things. But allowing yourself, I guess what you really focus on and how you listen to that inner voice and kind of communicate best with yourself is to understand that there are those two competing pieces of yourself. Like, I was listening to somebody today. I was literally walking around today listening to JP Sears, I think is a funny guy on YouTube. And he had one of those serious videos where he talks about now I forget it, of course, self-sabotage. Because I'm sabotaging myself in that I'm not focusing on helping more people. How do I do that? And I recognize that. I guess the best way to help yourself through those voices, self-sabotaging voice versus the voice that's going to lift you up, is to realize that you're neither of those voices. You're placed in the decision where you have both calling to you and you just choose. And look, if you're going to get on this path, you're going to have a lot of times where you're thinking, I'm not doing so good. Like, I could definitely do a lot better than what I'm doing right now. Like, today sucks, but I'm going to smile and just make it work anyways, because I'm not going to allow myself to go there. I can't. Now, my why is very deep. Like, I realized my why and my reason for my wall on that a long time ago. I keep a very happy demeanor, a very focused demeanor, very caring demeanor, because those around me have needed it. And this is, I'm talking about like way in the past, like childhood stuff. They've needed that. And if they didn't have it, like bad things happen. And so, and I'm not talking about anybody that anybody knows. Like, you can't just go research my family. Like, oh my gosh, nah. It's, I needed to be in a place where I could lift. And if I didn't, I saw the world around me deteriorate. I had to choose that. I think the best way to figure this out for yourself is not to try to recreate it. Don't say, okay, well, if I understand this, I'm going to recreate. No. Don't recreate your brain. Just dedicate yourself to being in your brain. Allow yourself to be you. And then as you're thinking of going through all these things, just say, all right, this is me, but what's really me? That's me. And that's the me that I've always wanted everyone to know, and live into it and have a blast doing it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Earlier you alluded to, talking about fear and worry, and obviously as entrepreneurs, this is a huge thing. I mean, yeah, it just seems like there's always that potential to get sucked into this fear and this worry that comes with being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
We all understand that this is a thing we have to cope with. And how have you learned to manage and control worry and fear?
It's still a battle. This is going to be a battle. It is. But understanding that it's a battle that I'm in for the long run, I'm okay. It's a war with many battles. So I was learning about self-sabotage today. The one thing that I've realized that's really interesting, we are all on this wheel of life. I'm going to call it just this wheel of life, where at one point you're at the high point, you say, I want to, and you go down on the wheel a little bit. Like, okay, now I have to take the plunge. I have to do the thing. Then you have the low point where things absolutely stink. And then you try to raise yourself up, and there's a voice at this point. And you have to define which voice you're going to listen to. And sometimes it's going to take a lot of those cycles in order to listen to the right voice. One voice is going to shame the tar out of you. And you're just like, I wish I should have done this. Why did I? And the question is that wall stronger than the shame? First off. The second voice that's there is a forgiving voice. It's, I tried, I didn't do it, but I think I can do it. I think I can. Just get that little hope that you can do it. Just hold on to that with all you've got and just keep running. When you're in that place where you're not getting any momentum and you're not quite sure, you hold on to that hope, and that hope leads when you go back through that cycle, because it's just life. Life's going to have these cycles. A friend of mine called it the vicissitudes of life. He calls it the ups and downs. But that's really just a circle if you take time out of the equation. And so we're all in this infinite circle of growth. And you just find, once you get to that point where things didn't quite work, what voice do you listen to? So I focus on, really, it's all about that wall for me. It really is. This is where I'm going to go. This is what I'm willing to put up with.
Right.
And for me, it's something I deal with over time, because I'm a guy. And so my wife's like, so what are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Give me a couple days. She's like, but, and I'm like, I know. I need a couple days because my emotions are dramatic. and I need to go and speak it out. I need to go and figure it out. Like, I just need my brain to have some time to let the wires stop buzzing in order for everything to just kind of settle and be like, oh, we're going to go there. Don't know if it's right, but hey, we're just going to try it. And if it doesn't work, we're still young. I like saying that at some point I'm not going to be young. Like suddenly I'm 33. I'm like, oh my gosh. At some point I'm not going to be young, but we're all going to be young. I don't think there's a time where you will ever want to be old. Mature, yes. Old, no. You're always going to want to be able to charge forward and allow yourself to make mistakes and grow. And that's how you run into home plate and you slide into that thing and you toss that umpire over your shoulder. That's how you go out of life just making it work, is you just keep pushing, just keep swimming. And it's just, but you have to define what your wall is going to be. And there are some people that are going to be on this, I should mention, there are going to be some people who are going to be like, man, Ben, you're really Pollyannic. Like you have this great idea of what life is and all these things. I'm going to say that, yes, but I say that knowing how much life has sucked in the past. Like I've been in those horrible places where there's no hope, where there's serious depression, where there are things that you cannot control and your security is entirely wiped from the face of the earth and you're just left naked and bare. I've been there. I understand that. But the only way to get out of that is that when that cycle hits and that shame comes knocking, you realize that you've gone far enough. Life has pushed you down far enough. It's time for you to state no and to stand. And standing is the one thing that you are able to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So stand. And as you keep standing, you'll get more Pollyannic. And that's totally fine. Because to tell somebody else, just stand, and you can stand with them, and we'll make the world a better place.
Yeah, for sure. So I like to go into this thing I call our speed round and talk a little bit about emotions.
Do it.
A little bit more about emotions. And so you'll get the idea, but essentially I'm going to give you a few different categories, and we're going to ask what your go-to emotions are when things are going good, and what your go-to emotions are, or your limiting beliefs of or your emotions are when things are bad.
All right then.
So
here we go.
Here we go. Are you ready? So in business,
yes,
when things are going well, what are your go-to emotions?
My go-to emotions. So I limit myself. I'm very scared to serve at a larger realm. I'm still gaining that belief. That's how I was learning self-sabotage. That's like, this is amazing right at this time. But when things are going well, my number one belief is, who am I hurting by ignoring?
Okay.
Like I literally, like that's, you talk about the two voices, right? Like that's where I'm going right now. And so who am I ignoring and who am I hurting? Because things are good. That means I must be missing something.
Okay.
So that's me. Like when things are good, when things are finally good, that's where my brain goes to. So I'll let you go to the next
one. When things are going poorly in business, what's your limiting emotion?
Limiting emotion when things are going poorly is, it's my fault. I was the limiting factor here. And I really don't know how I'm going to change me in this. Like, I've always seen spirituality and business in two different things. And I connect very deeply with the spirituality part that like helps me live and breathe personally. And so for some of you that may not be the truth, that's fine. But there's a rationality that you live inside of. I had to balance those two things and state, by the way, that wipes over everything. It's all inclusive. So I have to, my limiting belief in that moment is, to do rapid fire, is it's my fault, I'm not enough. And the saving grace is that I can stand back up.
Okay. And you have worked with a lot of clients, and so you do coaching and you help coach them through their challenges with the things that you work on. And so in coaching, when you're the coach, when things are going well, what's your go-to emotion?
Go-to emotion when things are going well? When things are going well for them, my go-to emotion is let's double it down.
Nice.
Let's double this down. Let's go.
Okay.
That's my go-to.
And limiting when things are going bad when you're coaching. What's your limiting emotion?
So when things are going bad when it's coaching is what's the one thing we can fix that'll give us exponential growth?
Okay.
What's that one missing piece that if we catch that, everything else will go faster?
Okay. And relationships, because we all have to deal with our relationships. When things are going well, what's your go-to emotion for relationships?
Gotta keep them.
Nice.
Gotta keep them. I don't want to lose this.
Okay.
I gotta keep this.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you're noticing some things there.
And when things are going poorly, what's your limiting emotion?
Limiting emotion is I screwed this up. Like I am screwing all this up. Like even when it's not my fault.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. Like if there's an issue in the relationship era and it's just like something is bothering somebody, the other partner in this relationship, whether it's marriage or whether it's family, whatever it is, I always look at it as it's my fault they're suffering.
Nice.
And so I'm like, I need to fix something. And no, I'm not good with my hands, so it doesn't help. and so I literally like, okay, let's talk. And some people are like, okay, cool. Other people are like, I don't talk. Okay, well, I'm not fixing anything. Sorry.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, guys, if you don't follow Ben, you have to follow Ben because first of all, you're going to get some great inspiration on a daily basis. And second of all, you need his stuff. So Ben, what kind of things are you up to right now that you can share with our audience and how can they find you and get connected with you so that they can take part in all the amazing stuff you're doing?
Absolutely. So honestly, the best thing that you can do right now. So I've got a course that I'm preparing to launch. Once again, we've talked about my fear of hurting people. I walked around a live event and offered my course 5 times. And every time I offered it and told them what was in it, everybody said, where's the link, Ben? I want to buy it right now. Here's my credit card. And I didn't create one because I was afraid somebody would buy it. So the course is coming. We're talking about these things. I'm growing into that. And you guys are here for it. If you guys are on the same path, work through it with me, guys. Let's all work through it. But that's coming. So there are things that are coming. So if you are an audio learner, check out Hack That Funnel Radio. I'm constantly putting out I've started going through and hacking people's funnels that I'm interviewing. So if I'm going to be interviewing Steven Larson, I'm going to go and see how he's made his $1 million. If I'm going to be doing somebody else, I'll go and see what they're doing. So that way you'll hear the interview and you'll see what made it work.
Nice.
So there's a lot there. So go check out the audio. If you guys are more interested in the visual, I record all of it in visual too. Go to YouTube and subscribe. And I guarantee you, if you do those 2 things, you won't miss what's coming.
Nice. Awesome. Well, we'll for sure put your links in the description so you can find it easily by just clicking on one of his links below. And you know what, Ben, you are awesome. I'm so happy and privileged to know you, and I'm so thankful you were able to come on the show today. Thank you for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, man.
The great Tony Robbins said, success is 80% psychology and 20% skills. Crazy, right? 80% mindset and 20% mechanics. Yet if you're anything like me in your entrepreneurial adventure, you easily spend 100% of your time working on the mechanics. Listen, even though it's easy to get caught up in the mechanics, we all know we should work on our mindset. But for so long, the mindset tools that have been out there are so complicated. That's why I decided to put together the Mindset Workshop that'll teach you the mindset skills you need using an easy framework that you can learn fast and use for the rest of your life. In this free, live, 5-day Mindset Workshop specifically for entrepreneurs, I'll be teaching the step-by-step process to identify your core challenge that's holding you back from achieving your next big goal. Check it out at marketingyourmind.com.